Hi everyone, I'm Jenna Callahan from the Powassan Area Family Health Team, and welcome to the Mindfulness series. This particular video has a specific focus on healthy thinking, and it's going to provide some basic information on what healthy thinking is and how practicing mindfulness can be beneficial to those who have trouble with healthy thinking. Other videos that may be beneficial to you could be the mindfulness series videos on stress, anxiety, depression, any of those. Maybe the video of self esteem as well. This video will have a particular focus on finding balance within our thinking. So, that being said, let's get into it. Hopefully, this goes without much saying, but the way that we think has really big implications on our behavior. So, trying to find balance and health within our minds is really important, and it's going to follow through with the way that we behave and the way that we treat ourselves and others. I think it's really important to note that healthy thinking does not necessarily mean positivity. And we'll get into this in the next couple of slides, but healthy thinking is more related to the absence of negative thinking. But we'll get into that in a second. The WHO, the World Health Organization, said that health in general is not negatively or narrowly defined as the absence of disease or infirmity, but positively and broadly defined as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well being, and the enjoyment of which should be a part of the rights of every human being without distinction regarding race, religion, political belief, economic standing, or social condition. So, in so much words, health is a state of well being. What is well being? Well, well being is a state of being comfortable or what is in the self interest of the person. So, those are some really, really broad definitions there, but that's what we have. That's what health is. Essentially, when we talk about healthy thinking, we're talking about a state of comfort, um, well being, and acting within our own self interest. And there are a lot of influences on our thought processes, including, you know, our upbringing, environment, social interactions, mental health diagnoses, trauma, stress levels, crises. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the things that impact our mental health and our ability to think healthily. So I think that those are all really important to acknowledge. So there are some characteristics that we know as being defined as healthy thinking. The first one here being psychological adjustment and adaptability. What we're talking about there is flexibility and being able to react to unexpected situations or obstacles. So that's what that means more in a nutshell. So when things kind of come your way, can you adjust to them without too much like psychological stress? The second one here is, like I had mentioned before, a balance of positive and negative thinking. So we don't want to say, yes, everybody think positive. That's what health is, because that's unrealistic. And we are supposed to have negative thoughts. Um, Negative things happen, and it's very normal to have negative responses to those things. So, what we aim for is balance. That's it. So, really, at the end of the day, can we say we were somewhere on neutral with our processing? The third little criteria here is positive self talk. So, what that is more indicative of is how we relate to ourselves. Do we look at ourselves relatively positively? Are we kind to ourselves in our own heads? That's a big part of what healthy thinking is. And then the fourth criteria here is processing distortions of thinking. Now, distorted thoughts are things, for example, like catastrophizing, generalizations, um, all or nothing thinking. I actually have a really good image of it here. So these are some examples of what distorted thinking would be. So I'll just pull a random one here. Jumping to conclusions, that would be, for example, if your partner You text them, they don't respond back. The immediate assumption would be they must be having an affair on me. Whereas maybe they were in the shower. Maybe they were doing homework. Maybe they were working. Maybe their phone was dead. There are a lot of different reasons why someone may not text you back right away. Having an affair while on the list is not the only thing on the list. So we can't jump to a conclusion without gathering more evidence. Another really great example is catastrophizing or minimization. There's kind of like those two extremes, right? Where everything is the worst. Every day is the worst day. Every interaction is just terrible. Versus minimization, where it's like, oh yeah, I didn't pay my rent. It's not so bad. I'll pay it next month. Which is really important. So these are, again, just some examples. You can screenshot this. You can also find it online. I just Googled distorted thoughts because I knew what I was looking for. But that's what that is right there. So here are some more healthy thinking criteria. The first one being a realistic self-evaluation. This would be knowing our own worth, knowing that we deserve to have kind, caring people in our lives, knowing that we deserve love, knowing that we're worthy of that pay raise, or we're worthy of taking care of our bodies and taking care of our souls. Yeah, that's what realistic self-evaluation is knowing where our strengths are and our weaknesses are. The second criteria here is having a sense of control. This one can be a little tricky because we don't have a lot of control over things. The things that we do have control over is ourselves, our own behaviors, and the actions that we put out into the world. We don't have control over the economy, the behaviors of other people. So having some sort of sense of control can be challenging for people who are assuming that they can have control over situations, which maybe they can't. All we can control is what we put into those scenarios and the effort that we put into things. So that one's a little more tricky. Third one here is a positive view of the future. So this is just overall knowing that even if we're having a really rough time right now, the future can be different. This is knowing that negatives are temporary, so are positives, but so are negatives, and that things can change. If we're unsatisfied with where life is for us right now, or just ourselves in general, things can change. Again, we're in control of ourselves and what we put out into the world. We can therefore make our own future positive. And then finally, healthy thinking includes having coping skills, whether they're internal or external. Being able to know that we have them in there is so important. So coping skills are essentially when we're feeling times of stress, when we're feeling times of struggle, we resort to those things to try and pull ourselves out of it. So examples of this would be exercise, self-care activities. Sometimes it's using grounding techniques like counting, removing ourselves from situations if we have to. Socializing is a really important coping mechanism. Those are just some examples. There's positive coping mechanisms and there's negative. We try to err on the side of having healthy coping mechanisms as well. Mindfulness is defined as being present in the moment, being aware of thoughts, feelings, sensations, the environment around us, which I wish was this environment that I'm looking at here, and this being paired with the acceptance of everything being as it is. So not trying to change anything, just being aware. The goal of mindfulness is to stabilize the mind, quiet the mind, decrease thoughts, and become absorbed in a state of concentration using techniques like breathing, visualizations, sounds, Music and art are great ways of practicing mindfulness. And mindfulness can also be a tool in recognizing or bringing awareness to ourselves about our own negative thoughts, kind of like those distorted thoughts that I showed you earlier, being aware of them and being aware of our own dysfunctional behavior as well. And therefore putting us in power to change it. So, yes, mindfulness can be a huge help for someone who's struggling with just having healthy thinking. Mindfulness allows us to sit back and take time to focus on ourselves and on our brains without judgment. So, even if we are having some not so great thinking practices, not judging them or not judging ourselves harshly for having them, but deciding to change them if we feel like we want to. Studies are showing that mindfulness can improve our attention, our cognitive flexibility. So, again, like I was talking about before, part of healthy thinking is being able to adapt on the go. This is part of that. Creativity. Um, Creativity, I'm not just talking about like, can you think of a song on the spot or can you change the color of your room and make it totally unique? Yes, creativity includes those things, but creativity also includes thinking of creative ways of solving our problems. When those unexpected scenarios happen, what can we think of on the fly to move forward? One study showed actually that even after one session using mindfulness meditation, there was improvement of performance in thinking tasks of the participants that were involved. Cognitive essentially means thoughts, by the way. I don't know if I was being very clear in that. So, obviously, given this study, we know that over prolonged time, we can continue increasing our performance of thinking and those tasks that come with thinking. So I hope that I've made mindfulness seem like it does help with healthy thinking styles, because the evidence and the research does suggest that it does, and it's something that's really accessible. Anybody can practice mindfulness. It doesn't require like a Pilates machine or like a bounce castle. Like, it doesn't require any tools. It's just sitting, if that's what you want to do with your time, or walking, or listening to music, or art. The hardest part that comes with mindfulness is understanding what mindfulness is. So this is why I added some tips for practicing mindfulness, because when I started in my own practice, obviously I was a complete novice and I didn't know what I was looking for. I thought that I was going to get somewhere. I thought that mindfulness was a end goal as opposed to a process. Um, Spoiler alert for me and for all of you, it's not. It's not a place in our minds. It's a process. It is. Um, and I think what brought me the most understanding of what mindfulness is was when my teacher of mindfulness explained to me that listening to my dog bark um, and having to scratch my face, those were still being mindful, because those are things that are going on right now in the present. So, yeah, I'll listen to my dog bark. I'll listen to my partner doing the dishes. I will listen to music. All of those things are rooted right now, and they're keeping my brain from thinking about my to do list for tomorrow, all of the goals and pursuits that I want to do. So anything can be mindfulness. Me taking a shower and taking an extra second to smell the shampoo, or going for a walk and noticing how my feet feel on the pavement, or noticing the colors of the leaves, or noticing the color of the sky that day. All of those things are mindful. And I think that that was the hardest thing for me to learn, was that mindfulness wasn't sitting in a corner in a room with like, a pillow and closing my eyes in complete like numbness. I think the more things that are going on, the easier that being mindful can be, actually. So yes, tips for practicing mindfulness. My first one is anchoring. Now, what anchoring means is essentially what's when we notice ourselves thinking about like, oh, after this I have to do this, or oh my God, I can't believe he said that to me. Um, Anchoring is the thing that's going to pull us back into mindfulness, into the present. So for me, the one that I go to, and maybe it's really obvious at this point, but sound is my anchor. There's always noise at my house, always, even if it's the sound of my laptop humming, the AC kicking on and off, like I said, my dog, um, all of those things. When I notice myself drifting off, I can resort to and pull me back. So finding your anchor, whatever that's going to be, will be really important. So a very common anchor is the breath, because obviously we're always breathing, and noticing the physical sensations of air going in down into our lungs and then exiting. Those are anchors for some people. Some people find touch is an anchor, so they're more tactile in that sense. Um, Anything to do with the senses can really be an anchor. And sometimes people's anchor is a guided meditation, which is totally okay too. So that's the big one. Of course, like I said before, finding time to practice mindfulness in everyday tasks is important. It doesn't have to be setting aside a half hour to an hour to just like literally do nothing. Or outwardly, it looks like we're doing nothing. But it could be like while you're driving, if you just want to like shut off the radio and listen to the sound of your car, or like what's going on around you, the way it feels to sit in the seat of the car. That's mindfulness. Another one of my favorite places, other than the shower, to practice mindfulness is at the sink, where where I'm like washing dishes, or when I cook. I'm very mindful as well. Mindful eating. I have a video about that, which I highly recommend. Um, so find moments of mindfulness in your everyday life so it doesn't seem like such a task. Another tip that I have is being aware of qualifying. Qualifying are the sentences that we say before we actually say what we mean. So, for example, you cook a meal for your partner and you say, oh, we didn't have butter, so I used oil, but it should taste okay. Um, that's a very like kind of self-judgmental talk of qualifying. Like, this is why my dinner might suck. um, or qualifying in, oh, I'm feeling a little bloated today, so my pants aren't fitting properly. That's another qualifying statement of why maybe you don't feel the most confident that day. We do this all the time. Particularly, it's been studied in women, but men do this as well. And it pulls us out of mindfulness. My other tip, start small. Again, don't try to sit for a half hour to an hour, maybe 2 minutes to 5 minutes. Trying to find those everyday tasks where you can just say, like, hey, I'm being mindful today. And my final tip is to just keep trying. Mindfulness can be really healing, and it can be something that takes us out of our own lives and helps us deal with our lives a little bit easier. So if you don't think that you can achieve it right away, that's okay. I didn't. That's very clear. I did not achieve mindfulness right away. It's a practice. It's kind of like exercising. We all have to start somewhere. So there's that. There is a guided meditation alongside of this video somewhere. I'm not sure where, but give it a shot. Let me know what you think. It's just going to be a really easy, I think it's about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. I did it myself, so maybe it can be beneficial for you. Maybe you'll find that that's an anchor for you. So yeah, check that out. And finally, here are some resources that you can check out as well. The Insight Timer app is free and it's great. I've used it many, many times. There's also Headspace and Calm. Neither of those are free, but if you're willing to make an investment or if you're intrigued, I think they may have free trials every now and then. You can very well just YouTube meditation, meditation music, meditation for balance, guided meditation. The things on there are endless, so maybe find one for yourself. Body scans are really nice, just as a tip. Headspace is also on Netflix as a series, which is pretty amazing. So you can also give that a try if you have a Netflix account. And finally, here's some books that you can check out as well. First one is Think This, Not That, Rewiring Your Brain to Eliminate Toxic Thinking, which uses mindfulness techniques to just, again, like pull us out of our own distorted thoughts. The second is Declutter Your Mind, How to Stop Worrying, Relieve Anxiety, and Eliminate Negative Thinking. And finally, Don't Overthink It, Make Easier Decisions, Stop Second Guessing, and Bring Joy to Your Life. So those 3 books all use mindfulness techniques within their writing to just try and get a little more control over our thoughts and take control over our minds. That's it for my video. I hope you found some of it beneficial, maybe learned a thing or two, and go forth and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.